I am constantly locked in on altcoins like Ondo that are extremely bullish, but their price chart is just consolidating. Very similar to H-bar back in 2024, right? Leading up to the big fireworks of November, what I was saying is that the fundamentals are all pressure, right? All of these big announcements that you would expect the price to just erupt from, just not doing it, right? But the biggest thing that I said was all of these announcements will eventually lead to the price going insane because it's all just pressure. It's all pressure building behind the scenes while the chart looks flat. And right now, since going all the way back to around December, January of, quarter four of 2024 and quarter one of this year, Ondo has just been in a downtrend, and then now we're just trading in this long extended consolidation pattern since going all the way back to about roughly March and April of this year. So we have been consolidating for well over 4 to 5 months, and this is starting to get a lot of people a little bit bothered, right? A lot of people are getting annoyed with this, and this is the best time to be looking into altcoins like this because they have strong fundamentals. They have a very strong team behind them. They constantly are pushing more and more updates and expanding and, just making a ton of noise. But the price action is still so boring. Now, looking at Ondo on the 5-day chart, I could actually change this up slightly. We're still in a nice, strong uptrend, and we're squeezing within this wedge. Now, I don't think that this is going to last too much longer. We could have this breakout by the end of this month. Could be, even in October. Technically, October would be the time where we do reach the end of this, wedge, where we should be starting to see some pretty big moves to the upside. I do suspect that we could get a potential retest under $1 once again on Ondo right before we start to break above the upper trend line, and we get a 5-day candle close over $1.11, which would confirm the next big break to this blue zone up here at about roughly $1.35 to $1.48. And then this would be our major level of interest where we start to break over this. And then we target the all-time high going back to December, which is right around $2.15 on Ondo. Biggest thing right now, I'm watching for the moving average to hold on some of these time frame structures, like on the 5-day. We are about to retest the moving average on RSI, so I'm definitely watching for that to hold. But the biggest thing right now is just kind of watching these altcoins gain some momentum against Bitcoin and really kind of flip bullish on not just the USD chart, but also on their dominance pair or even on the Bitcoin pair. But Ondo still looks very good here. It's just consolidating. Really kind of reminds us back to times where Ondo did consolidate as well. Like for an example, a very good example of this is this time from roughly August all the way into November, right before the big fireworks. And this right now is just an extended period of this. And the longer that we build this base, the higher in space we go, right? So the longer we consolidate here, the higher that we will go once we break out. And I do suspect that Ondo is going to hit like $5 to $10. And even then, I still think that we could potentially go higher. But Ondo is extremely bullish. Now, let's talk about a few things. Number one, let's go over this week's biggest moves, right? Another defining week for digital asset adoption. SEC Chairman Paul Atkins declared crypto's time has come. BlackRock announced plans to tokenize ETFs, and NASDAQ filed to enable tokenized securities trading. Again, this is proof that we're starting to see, crypto become a much bigger piece of TradFi than, I mean, this is happening faster than we ever thought possible. So, this is a very, very clear trend, as you guys do see here. Tokenization is transitioning from innovation to infrastructure. Here's what happened. Number one, SEC Chairman Paul Atkins says crypto's time has come. At the inaugural OECD roundtable on global financial markets, SEC Chairman Paul Atkins announced to the world, crypto's time has come. We must ensure that entrepreneurs can raise capital on-chain without endless legal uncertainty, and we must allow for super app trading platform innovation that increases choice for market participants. On top of that, BlackRock is exploring tokenized ETFs. The world's largest asset manager, BlackRock, is exploring the tokenization of exchange-traded funds on the blockchain. The New York firm aims to tokenize funds linked to real world assets such as stocks pending regulatory approval. And this is something very interesting, especially considering the fact that we could even see Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs get tokenized on chain. Would be wild to see that, and it would make a lot of sense. NASDAQ files with the SEC to launch trading of tokenized securities. NASDAQ on Monday filed a proposal with the US SEC to tweak its rules to allow for trading of listed stocks and exchange-traded products on its main market in either traditional or tokenized form. Also, another big game changer because this is the NASDAQ, right? Like, this isn't some small-time name. No, this is literally the NASDAQ. Tether launches USAT. We went over it, right? I do think that this is kind of confirmation that USDT is not compliant. Never was. It's not transparent. They don't have proper backing, so they had to launch a new stablecoin. But yeah, I mean, these are the moves that are happening almost every single week. It's kind of crazy to see, but you know, things are picking up in a big way. Now, on top of that, we also have Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is betting the crypto industry will become a crucial buyer of treasuries in coming years as Washington seeks to shore up demand for a deluge of new U.S. government debt, according to the Financial Times. Stablecoin issuers and tokenized U.S. treasuries platforms together hold more than $170 billion in U.S. treasuries, according to the latest data, ahead of Saudi Arabia, South Korea, and even Germany. This demonstrates how tokenization is not only modernizing traditional finance, but strengthening U.S. treasury markets as well. And yeah, I mean, it's very clear that, you know, crypto is shaking up traditional finance and even the traditional financial system. And then also stocks. Tokenized stocks and ETFs are gaining significant adoption. According to RWA.xyz, tokenized stocks grew 60% in market cap over the past 30 days. Coinciding with the launch of Ondo global markets, the demand demonstrates what becomes possible when U.S. capital markets are democratized through tokenization. And we already know Ondo global markets, guys, it was 1 week. 1 week, $100 million in TVL. That's all it took. Is 1 week, 7 days to hit $100 million on chain. These things are starting to scale in a very large way. Now, we also heard over here from Ian DeBode from Ondo. First it was dollars, then treasuries, now stocks and ETFs. Tokenized treasuries went from $1 billion 18 months ago to now $7 billion, and we expect the same thing to start to occur for tokenized stocks and ETFs. Check this out.
Are tokenized stocks and ETFs the next frontier?
We would like to believe it is. Typically, it's very hard to predict which assets actually get adoption, but when you think about the latent demand globally that is out there for these assets, I think it is pretty significant and a lot of people underestimate it. Right now, when you look at stablecoins, we're already coming up on almost $300 billion, in large part because hundreds of millions of people globally have figured out that the stablecoin is a very easy way to get access to the US dollar, and by putting it on blockchain rails, it actually becomes better than if it's just in a bank account because you can freely send it around 24/7. The same thing has started to happen with tokenized treasuries. It went from $1 billion or so 18 months ago to now $7 billion. And we expect the same thing to start to occur for stocks and ETFs. There are about 400 million people outside the US that have a crypto exchange account, but most likely do not have a brokerage account because access to brokerage accounts historically has been a lot more difficult to get. So we believe you'll start to see crypto exchanges and crypto wallets start to list stocks in tokenized form, really opening up access to that global audience that historically has not had that.
And yeah, I mean, listen, when we think about this, I mean, the benefits to tokenized stocks, having that global access, I mean, this is where we start to see mass participation in not just buying, selling, trading, but also holding. There could be 1,000,000,001 different use cases that can be derived from this as well, because once it's on chain, all of a sudden you can lock it into DeFi, applications. You could start to see a completely different world around stocks be formed because, we don't know what's possible yet. This is a completely new world of finance, if you will. But also, if we're thinking about this, yeah, it really did start with millions. Now we are seeing billions. Next up will be trillions. When it comes to Ondo, total value here is up 20+% in the last 30 days. We're at $1.67 billion in total value. The holders are up almost 12% in the last 30 days as well, almost at 12%. This is 18,000 holders almost. Monthly transfer volume up 700+% in the last 30 days, almost $500 million. And monthly active addresses up over 120+%, 2,000 monthly active addresses. And if we're looking at the major growth here, I mean, everything is on an upward swing, but a big piece of all of this in terms of those asset classes were definitely stocks. I mean, guys, we hit $203 million. So if you thought that the 100 million in 7 days was insane, well, guess what? We actually hit over $200+ million. Looking at the tokenized stocks, by the way, I mean, guys, this is insane to see this big spike, and this is all from Ondo. I mean, just look at the networks here. Looking at, or actually it would be under platforms. I do apologize. But looking at the platforms, right? Ondo is number 2 on this list. We are about to flip Securitize for the number 1 spot very soon. And again, just looking at some of the values here. Okay. So let's just go to the total value. The first major one here from Ondo is just the Spider Index Fund. This is a very safe investment, if you will. The Spider Index Fund in the traditional world. I would assume that it's the same in the tokenized world as well. But just taking a look at this, right, we could see how fast these things are moving in value. I mean, just over the last couple of days, this thing has grown tremendously. And, this is just one of many. I mean, Ondo has been witnessing crazy amounts of growth here. I love to see this. And, if we're looking at the asset classes, I really wish that there was a way to just kind of focus on one network here, but you can clearly see, and let me look at the percentages here. I just kind of want to see what's happening here and just kind of track it real quick, just to kind of show you guys how fast things are changing here, especially around Ondo, and how fast things are just kind of growing on chain around tokenized stocks. So the percentage here, it's a little bugged out. Let me refresh rwa.xyz. I do apologize. I just want to look at the shorter time period and just kind of show you guys what Ondo did for stocks. So again, you could see the fresh launch going into September, right? And you can see all of the Ondo stocks growing tremendously in value. I mean, even just 1 million across the board impacts Ondo in a huge way, because remember that Ondo now has 103 tokenized stocks. So if every single one of those add, let's just say $500,000 to them, guys, that is a crazy amount of money to be added on chain. That's why Ondo is absolutely killing the game right now. And also on top of that, we have over here, on-chain capital markets represent a $1 trillion opportunity. 5 years from now, when people open their first investment account, it will be on a blockchain rail, and they'll be able to hold equities, crypto, and transact 24/7. This is from Ian DeBode, but also Nathan Ullman from Ondo. Check it out. Listen closely. This is the future of trading stocks.
So if we were to project this forward to 2030, what do you think capital markets, what do you think TradFi looks like? What do you think Wall Street looks like? How much in value do we have in tokenized assets just in general? I mean, we're still under $1 trillion, right? We're $250 billion right now. How big does this get? How fast does it happen? And what does the future look like?
That's a tricky question to answer, because I think what we've seen so far is the adoption of this space really works with the hockey stick, right? So it's almost like you're doing a lot of prep, and for a while nothing really happens, and there's a little bit of adoption, but then all of a sudden the right components are in place. I think with stablecoin, that ended up being the DeFi ecosystem that formed, and all of a sudden there was just this hockey stick growth of the asset, so that it now is, 280 billion and continuing to grow, because more and more people's minds, the stablecoin is a good way to get access to the US dollar. And I'm sure over time, we'll see the same thing with US treasuries, US stocks, and US ETFs. So it's going to be very interesting to see. I'm not sure I have a number for you, but I do feel pretty confident that, 5 years from now, 2030, a lot of people who open up an investment account for the first time It will be on-chain rails, on blockchain rails, and they'll be able to hold equities, crypto, really whatever asset class that it is they want to hold and be able to transact in it 24/7.
And yeah, I mean, listen, when we're thinking about what's happening here, this is the biggest transition from the traditional world to a completely new world around stocks and everything that we trade on a day-to-day basis. I mean, almost every single process in the traditional world will soon be on chain. Buying a house will be on chain. Buying a car will be on chain. Anything that requires you to sign papers or go through a paper-based process, that's all moving on chain. This is something that I don't think people realize is happening right now. Like, we know because we have been following this, we have been tracking this, we have been studying this. And again, this is not going to be valued in millions or billions of dollars. No, this is a, $1 trillion+ opportunity. This is going to be once in a lifetime. We're not going to have something like this for at least another, I would say, 100 years. I think that this is the biggest thing that will happen around tech for the next, give or take 50, 100+ years. And the amount of money that will be made by just being early in some of these projects, seeing the value in some of these projects before we see trillions hitting the blockchain, that's like one of the biggest things that you can do right now is just study these projects, understand these projects, understand what's happening, understand how big tokenization will be, see what's happening to traditional markets and how they're starting to flood on chain and what their value is. I mean, guys, this is a huge opportunity. The global, when we think about some of these markets, guys, the global stock market is valued in 100+ trillions of dollars. I mean, it's insane. Equities are 60+ million or $1 trillion in just the US. So again, if we're thinking about the values here, it's hundreds of trillions of dollars. There's massive amounts of growth here still left on the table. And the value tied back to Ondo, I mean, we're at 1.67 billion. This value is nowhere close to where we are headed. I mean, this is a drop of water in the bucket. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because of more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.